Okay, Milker, Nuno, Gabor, we are on. I will start my opening to this big audience that is with us. First of all, let me thank you all for this safety webinar entitled Bill Presentment Strategies for Telcos. For those who do not know safety, here it goes my only 10 seconds of advertisement. I promise just that. So safety, we are a global leader for electronic bill presentment and electronic invoice as software as a service provider with clients in more than 40 countries, around with 350,000 daily users among all of our suite of solutions. And we have been doing this since 2000. So, although we have the same energy of a startup, we actually are doing this successfully for a while. If it is the first time that you are hearing from us, then let me tell you that is better now than never. Well, before I start, I have to admit that to accommodate such interesting people from all over the world is not an easy task. So I might need to say to some of you, good morning, another one, good afternoon, and some of you, good night. In case if it is good night, forget the coffee, it's not needed. This will not be another boring webinar, so do not be afraid of falling asleep while it's going on. But just in case you do so, let me tell you that probably is not our fault. Just make sure you do not press the unmute button. We don't want you to share with us that. But now imagine if we had to serve food, vegetarians, vegans, eating fish and only, and so on. Yeah, right. You might think this is a webinar. It doesn't make any sense. But do you believe that we had some clever guys in the company during the brainstormings saying it might be nice to send some lunchbox to the people attending independently of the location? Also, with this global spread audience, finding a date that is not a bank holiday is actually really hard. You would not imagine how hard it is to do it. It was even harder than to set up and convince the speakers to attend to this webinar. The amount and the volume of discussion we had internally to choose which country we would sacrifice and make come to work to assist to this webinar during a bank holiday was unbelievable. Well, in the end, I have to admit that I'm glad it was not me. None of our invited speakers for the roundtable. I hope Gabor and Amilcar. If you are one of them, we really thank you for your additional time. And I promise I will not disappoint you. I hope again. But let me get back to work and start to crack on. First, yes, we'll talk about digital transformation and pandemic. I bet it's the first time you are listening to these topics in a webinar. But we will actually be talking about it with a real telco use case experience and cross with something that we are really keen to know more. Why we believe bill presentment is so important, especially during this and the next times for telcos. So we will focus on the strategies and operational side taken by telco companies in response to the current situation and how bill presentment solutions can close the gap between corporate and individual customers. Why today's role of electronic bill presentment is a critical touch point regarding customer experience journey in our perspective. So before I start, let me introduce you to three fantastic experts that according to themselves are also amazing people. To join me at this round table and have an open and interesting discussion about the role of electronic bill presentment in the telco ecosystem, let me welcome you, Amilcar Torres, Gabor Todd, Nuno Matos, and myself. I will just make a quick introduction about Amilcar, Gabor, Nuno, and myself before we start. So, Amilcar has over 20 years of multinational experience delivering sustainable business growth and operation excellence through safety, strategic planning of overall product and technology roadmap. Amilcar is right now the Vice President of Products in Cable and Wireless Communication and is bringing here a layer of complexity when you are dealing with multi-operations in very different regions with different realities. Joining us also, we have Gabor Toth. Gabor Toth is responsible for the revenue and billing transformation lab at Vodafone Hungary. He's been doing this for almost 12 years, and one of the outcomes and challenge that he has right now is the merge between Vodafone Hungary and UPC Hungary. That will be also one of the future challenges that Gabor will be facing. Nuno Matos. Nuno Matos is the Vice President of Product Marketing, helping companies in safety, transforming their business process and based it on software as a service solution, and he's been doing this successfully with us for 20 years. And the less important person, myself. I am the Vice President of International Sales at Safety. I've been doing this at Safety almost for 18 years, helping the company grow for what it came today. In terms of agenda, we're going to divide this in some different topics. We're going to start with something wide, starting what is the impact of COVID pandemic in the telco industry, some generic ideas, and then start to narrow to the topics that we want to approach here, because there's a story behind that makes sense to start from the bigger picture and then go to what we believe will help during these times. Then go for major change expected on company strategies. What is today's role of electronic bill presentment on the current solutions and touch points? And finalize with bill presentment on telco future digital transformation strategies. We also have the question and answer channel open, so anyone who wants to jump in and pose some questions will be able to reply that and distribute through the round table in the ending of our session. So, starting from now on, and starting from COVID impact on the telco industry, I would like to perhaps start with you, Amilcar, and give us a glance what, in your perspective, a change in the way that industry provide its services for both corporate and individual customers. Let me just give you a quick example in terms of what we are trying here to talk about. You have in the hospitality sector, we have observed restaurants adapting to meals delivery. In groceries, increasing the online services. The e-commerce was never so high during the current times. In your perspective, in what you have been your feeling, what are the telco industry doing similar and what is happening there?
So, well, you mentioned hospitality, and let's start with that, because in the areas that we operate, in the regions that we operate, hospitality is a big segment, and it's a big enterprise segment for us, not only from a customer perspective, but also they generate other smaller business that provide to that hospitality industry, and we service them all. And COVID has been tremendously negative on the hospitality industry. Nobody's traveling, nobody is doing anything around hospitality, and therefore it has had a negative impact on our business. Now, what we were doing before COVID with the hospitality industry is that we were helping accelerate the digital transformation of the hospitality industry. We were providing them everything from entertainment to even monitoring their IoT devices. And now, all of a sudden, this has ground to a halt to an extent. We do expect that this is not going to stay forever, and that the hospitality will come back, and will come back eventually, especially in the countries where we operate. And we will continue to provide world-class services to that industry.
Very well, very well. Gabor, I'll jump to you. In terms of what's coming next, what do you believe will be the new normal for telco companies after the pandemic? Give your personal perspective about it, please.
Well, what I have seen is inside the telco industries and inside our workstations and what we are doing in our daily routines is dramatically going to change. uh, at the very beginning in the pandemic, all the big companies, all the multinational companies, and not just the telco, but all the office workers are went to home office, and we started to realize that it is actually working. It can be done. We are actually seeing some growth even in some specific areas where the effectiveness of the teams have been started to grow. Of course, there are some certain other teams where the effectiveness started to decrease because they need the personal interaction with their team and to increase their effectiveness. But all in all, it is going to change the way of working, the way how we are doing our daily routine, and the way how we are going to feel ourselves inside or during our daily jobs, because most of us can still progress on a daily routine from home office, even if there is the family. We started to resolve it. We started to get used to it, and basically, it is going to decrease the need for huge, big offices where thousands of people need to gather together and solve their issues and start their projects or even manage their projects. And going further, there is no straight decisions about it, but we started to analyze that what is the actual employees need, how to move back into the office, and how they are going to feel themselves safe inside the office. So basically, it's the matter of the future, but it's really near to us. And what I feel is that we are going to be more at home and less inside the office, and it is going to be most likely activity based when we are going back to the office. It will depend on what task is awaiting us, and if the task requires personal attendance, then we are going to be there. Otherwise, we are still available on our Skype, on our Teams, on our Zoom. We have tons of equipments to do so. We have many things in the digital area which helps us to do so.
Well, that's an interesting example. And personally, for example, for me, one of the challenges that I had was the informal management, what we call it, was the daily task that we were solving by just crossing with each other in the coffee section and having a quick chat. And that's a big difference between what I can see from Vodafone Hungary, that is playing locally, and the big difference with the Milker perhaps in the cable and wireless was already doing with spread operations around the Central America and South America, where for you working remotely and having this kind of remote activities was not a new thing. And of course, it depends how long this pandemic will continue. So we can have big lessons if it goes for a long time and change dramatically, not only internally in telcos, but also the behavior of your customers, and that will also affect the products and the way we provide the service to them, but of course internally. No, you are also responsible at safety for the research center that we have, and perhaps you are the most educated guy between me and you regarding these themes. For what you have been searching, reading, and even writing, what has changed or has been accelerated in the digital transformation strategy within the emergence of the pandemic? Nuno?
You are on mute.
Yes.
Now we can.
First of all, let me thank to all the attendees that are joining us. Thank you, Milker and Gabor, for accepting our invitation and for being here with us. Now, getting back to your question, I think there is no question that as a result from COVID-19, millions of users worldwide will be more connected and more familiar with digital tools than ever. One thing that I'm still amazed is when looking at my 3 children attending classes online and logging into their own meetings like grown-ups is still something surreal, but has become, of course, commonplace for almost everybody who has children. I also believe that digital transformation has had a huge acceleration compared to what were companies' strategies on this matter. Of course, companies which were more advanced on their digital transformation strategies probably have had a clear advantage over others that weren't probably as committed to this before the pandemic. Another relevant aspect that we have seen on recent decisions made by major companies regarding their operations, particularly on physical retail, are very interesting. So seeing Microsoft deciding to close permanently all of its retail stores, this happened just last week. Also, Virgin Media closed permanently 53 stores. Apple temporarily closed 32 stores in 5 states, and Nike announced the anticipation of layoffs as it accelerates digital strategy. So the major companies are dealing with this, of course, turning themselves clearly towards, in a more accelerated pace, towards the digital transformation. On what concerns telcos, and with closed stores all around the globe, call center operations have been suffering huge spikes in volume, as at the same time businesses are moving their workforce to digital, and that means increased demand for hosting capacity, networking infrastructure, and connectivity, thus accelerating also the shift to cloud IT. We've seen also with global travel cancellations that are resulting in a significant increase in mobile communications. So it is understandable that excessive demand on mobile and communications networks would affect, in many cases, service quality. That said, we have seen Netflix cutting streaming quality in Europe for 30 days, around late March and April. And also CSPs were most likely impacted by the reduction in revenue from variable mobile charges due to reduced international roaming and less out-of-home data usage. At the same time, network usage and voice call volumes increased exponentially. So in the short term, I believe key opportunities for CSPs lie in the enablement of mass working from home and in accelerating transformation of traditional to digital business models. Telcos are already taking a variety of measures to improve the customer experience. For instance, in several countries, such as in the UK, telcos have increased capacity and are offering unlimited minutes. Also, telcos can support remote working while giving consumers a positive experience throughout the crisis. And those who do so successfully will most likely enjoy a boost to their brand. This was my comment on your question.
No, and I totally fully agree that if there was a sector that was already during a journey that could prepare for what was coming was the telco industry. One of the doubts that I have, and I'm just gonna do the bridge here for Amilcar, is the role of NVOs during what the times that are coming. That if CSPs now that have, especially on the corporate side, B2B side, are MNVOs, since office and big structures will be distributed, does MNVOs have an opportunity here to tackle a sector that was not as strong for them as the B2C side?
Sorry, no. MVNOs you meant?
Yes.
Okay. I can't speak that much about MVNOs. We only have one MVNO, and it's very consumer focused. It's in Chile. And the competitive landscape there, it's very different from other markets. So unfortunately, not my cup of tea right now in terms of the impact that it would have on an MVNO business. Other than, being in an MVNO position in some of our markets would be disadvantageous, given that in many of our markets, the mobile phone is your primary source of connectivity. And therefore, for a lot of our consumers, without the mobile phone, they have no way to connect. Now, we have seen a reduction not in mobile utilization, but in the ability for customers to expand their services. but we also have seen an improvement on the fixed line adoption. And COVID has been a tremendous accelerant of that adoption. While we have seen negative impacts on both mobile and B2B, we have seen a positive adoption on the fixed line businesses, especially for some of the stuff that Nuno was saying, working from home, having your kids study from home, which is a completely different experience for all of us who are parents. And it's all enabled through the connectivity that we have at home. Without the connectivity and the telco industry being in the middle as an essential industry to provide a lifeline service like education, like communication, I don't know how we would cope with this pandemic these days.
Well, that's before I jump to another topic. That's also interesting because some months ago I was talking with in a forum with very high level executives in the telco sector, and I was asking them what will be the future of telecoms, and everyone has a different perspective. What's it going to be? Content provider, whatever. And one of them just told me, no, connectivity will always be needed. So there's always a safe port, which is connectivity. And perhaps during the pandemic, we have that proof. Well, I would like to jump the topic number 2 in the webinar, which is related with the question that I just questioned, which are the major change and shifts performed or expected on company strategies. Here, of course, we don't want Vodafone or Cable and Wireless to share their strategies, but rather a personal opinion, what can or what you would like to come next. Gabor, I will just direct this one to you in terms of what has been speed up or slowed down within strategic objectives and projects as a response to the pandemic. When you look to the Vodafone Hungary, and not internally, but you start to talk with your business guys in Vodafone Hungary, the guys that are in the field doing the sales to your market, what are the first requests or demands that you are listening that might be different in 3 months? Something that you were not expecting in the beginning of the year. They ask you in terms of business trends, and now you are starting to listen. Well, look, in the Hungarian market, we really need to start doing these kind of things in order to respond to the situation of our clients.
Well, the most visible change that came to us is the need for the internet. It's been always there, as you have told. We need internet. We need connectivity. We need our cell phones. This is how we are connected to the today's world. And the acceleration in the internet consumption been dramatic, especially in the very first days and weeks. And basically, it boosted us to accelerate 5G rollout. So the only change is positive regarding this. A lot more opportunities have been started to open to start building our network furthermore and increasing our capacity, not just on 5G, but also increasing it on 4G and every existing channel to ensure to our customers that our network is stable and their connectivity allows them to let their children to continue their school, to do not waste their time, and to be online and to be available for everyone. I think it's been the most critical part of the pandemic, and this is where Vodafone came to the picture, especially because we've been in focus and we are still in focus due to the UPC merge, and not just on mobile broadband, but on fixed broadband, the same need appeared, and the same need now are addressed to the very same company, which is Vodafone. So what we had to ensure and what we had to start to focus on is the network assurance, the connectivity assurance, to ensure our customers that we are behind them. We give them the resources, we give them everything that they need to survive this pandemic. Also in the meantime, what we have seen is the daily routine which have changed. The major project did not change. Some area has been slowed down, some area has been boosted up, but all in all, they haven't changed at all. But what have changed is the reaction time. Not just on Vodafone side, but all of our partners, all on the critical areas which we are working together with, started to react fastly and effectively, which been pretty much a good example or a good experience to see that how fast the net and how fast the market is reacting to the requests.
Very well, very well. You touch in a good point, which is 5G. I have to be honest, Amilcar, I don't know what is the strategy of Cable and Wireless for 5G, but you as the guy responsible for the products in the company, has the 5G timelines affected you in terms of perspective to launch products to the market, for example, based on 5G?
So in terms of 5G, given where we operate, we're always going to be opportunistic. Okay, we're not in Europe, we're not in a first world country where 5G, especially because we also have very strong fixed connectivity. We are a very strong fixed operator, and fixed is going to always be, in terms of quality of connectivity, a step ahead of the mobile connectivity. It's just physics. Just the physics of mobile don't allow it to be as effective as fixed. So when it comes to 5G, we're looking at it opportunistically. We will continue to explore it. We have run some trials in some of our countries, and we are in the process of acquiring AT&T in Puerto Rico and US Virgin Islands. And we will explore 5G in Puerto Rico, given the competitive nature, given that T-Mobile, for instance, is already launching 5G. We will be in a position to match them in that market. In other markets, it will be, as I said, opportunistic and on a case-by-case basis, given the competitive environment of each market.
Very well, very well, very well. Nuno, with COVID-19, we are witnessing a paradigm shift across the value chain. Digital transformation comes to play a role that is often the one called digital survival. We stop from digital transformation, and actually the only channel that we can speak with our customer selling something is the digital way. So digital survival, I believe it's a fair name. What do you think? Digital transformation will slow down after the pandemic pact is over, or this boost that we are assisting now will continue for the next times?
Well, first of all, just let me say that we carefully chose this picture, as we will need to use everything in our reach to make smart cities a reality. But first, still getting back to the 5G, let me say that in the short term, manufacture and delivery of network equipment are likely to suffer delays, probably slowing 5G and fiber networks builds. But at the same time, many companies are looking at long-term investments in their networks, and in some cases, actually anticipating investment in 5G because of its increased reliability and speeds, which are in high demand and right now. Also has a significant number of consumers who are pushed into a digital-first, connectivity-centric ecosystem and are demanding more advanced digital experiences. CSPs will need to keep 5G as a critical focus area. Although we've seen 5G auctions being delayed all over the world, it is expected that 5G capex to bounce back strongly from the last quarter of 2020 onwards. Another trend resulting from the pandemic is the emergence of partnerships between cloud and CSPs to enable IoT and enterprise-related use cases. As at the same time, there's also a growing need for private networks isolated from the public internet with specific service level agreements within those ecosystems. And we can name some of the 5G challenges for business models and monetization, which is also a huge issue, which can include the swing to enterprise ecosystems, as I mentioned, the ability to allocate revenue between all partners, the multi-party billing, reconciliation and payment, and implementing revenue sharing mechanisms. So these are all huge challenges that we operators will be facing. But in conclusion, and although we've seen conspiracy theories about 5G networks and anti-5G movements emerging with COVID-19, I believe that 5G will come stronger than ever.
Totally agree. And that brings me to the topic number 3, that what is the role of electronic bill presentment on the current solution and Touchpoints? And here I will start with some buzzwords that are important and will also have an impact on bill presentment. And perhaps one of the first ones is artificial intelligence and machine learning fever that everyone was living for the last year and a half. We know that it's having a big impact on organizations, but the thing is, and right now we are suffering a crisis. People are asking, show me the money of these investments that I have done in the past. Amilcar, in cable and wireless, have you seen the benefits of these investments in CWC?
So not yet, because we are close to launching the solution with safety in our first market in the upcoming days, actually. And we're very excited about it. But we do see it as a pivotal element of our digital delivery. And especially, we see an accelerated need for this due to COVID. Because if there's one thing that we've learned with the pandemic, is that a lot of our sort of longer term plans have been squeezed into a shorter time frame, because of all the changes that we've seen, not only in the industry, but in our way of working and our way of engaging, in the way that our enterprise customers primarily expect us to deliver services to them. And enterprise bill presentment is at the heart of it. You know, if there's 2 elements that I would say are at the heart of it, one of them is identifying the customer and the customer structure, and the other one is putting a number behind that customer and giving the customer the visibility and the ability to slice and dice what are they using, how are they using it, and providing them full transparency and visibility on how are they benefiting from the wealth of services that we're providing to them today.
Yeah, we actually believe in that, and we believe these kind of value-added services will not only bring efficiency to a maximum during this pandemic times, but also contributing directly for NPS, Net Promote Score, which is something that we are all keen to work better, especially in the business-to-business market segments. I know it is difficult to quantify it, but when you are looking to this type of solutions, if you had to look at in an NPS perspective, what would be the advice that you give to someone that is also implementing a solution like this?
Well, we definitely, it's a no-brainer. We definitely expect an improved customer experience and therefore improved NPS. But one thing that it's not as evident and that we absolutely expect out of this is churn reduction. Is that we expect our customers, by having a tool that is more flexible and more personalized to their needs, to be more loyal to us, to stay with us, because we're giving them the right level of tools for them to manage their business as effectively and as frictionless as possible.
And that also brings me to something that I believe it's important to highlight it, which is Internet of Things. If we look to the complexity with 5G and IoT together, the billing parts, the billing process will have to adapt to that, and will be even more complex to allocate costs according which customer reality. If you look to a Coca-Cola for example, operation. They will have factory number A, factory number B. Refrigerator will have an IoT that is communicating with the central system, and all of this as a SIM card or a chip, that's something that is being billable in terms of communication. Crossing IoT with the role of invoice presentment, and let's take in here the billing process from the middle, just IoT and presenting that information to the customer. Gabor, do you think that will be a critical step in order to get the attention of business-to-business customers?
Can you please repeat the question, because
No
I lost your
problem.
voice for a second.
No problem. I was just explaining the complexity between introduction of Internet of Things, IoT, and the process that that are needed. Tell me one thing: if you have to look to the IoT and also the presenting billing data, do you think that invoice presentation will be very important for business-to-business customer to see these two reality together?
Invoice presentment in any kind of product, I think, is the most important thing if we are just watching at the digital transformation. Because if I'm looking at an end-to-end process, it is starting from a web shop or an online sales, and we are always going to issue an invoice for that product. So at the end, if you want to achieve the digital transformation, whatever product is on the table, it is really crucial and really important to have a correct presentment and a transparent presentment system, which will provide support for the customers to book their spends and or control their spends, especially in IoT, because in IoT we are talking about many small datas, and it will be really crucial for them to see that, as you have mentioned, the complexity of the connection between these things, and also we have to somehow present the structure to the customer, because they will need the data from one source, one truth of source. So it will be really crucial for, especially in IoT, to somehow and somewhat model their structure, their unique structure, and to adopt it into a system where they can easily access it.
Very well, very well. So now I have the demand, the description of the demand of our customer side, which is just Gabor. No. If I have to look to what Gabor just said, and me as a solution provider, what will be the answer from our side?
Well, thank you, Nuno. First of all, I think this is true to any digital provider. I believe that each business journey must consider how it will make an impact on the customer's life with improved customer experience. And that in the end will determine whether CSPs can stay relevant. So yes, I think bill presentment can play an important role in helping to simplify IoT billing, particularly from the customer's perspective, just as Gabor was telling. And this means that the simplification of IoT billing should be strategic for CSPs, in my opinion. And we often hear that it's all about the data, and of course that's correct, we can agree on that, but it's also true that CSPs need to be able to deliver value from it to their customers and capitalize from IoT. And because we also are always listening that data is the new oil, IoT certainly will be producing a significant part of it. So the amount of data produced can be overwhelming as more devices are added to the ecosystem. And if a bill presentment solution is able to process all that data, besides the regular charging details, it can add context to each consumption with the help of tailored reports, dashboards, and among other features to make it a much better experience than the customers are usually used to. And we also, for CSPs, it's also important to address the capability of their billing systems to unique IoT monetization models and pricing structures. That's a big challenge for CSPs. First, to sort that out. Many of them have legacy billing systems which aren't at all ready for IoT challenges. But having that sorted out, bill presentment solutions are one of the possible partnerships for billing systems that could enable quick and accurate data analysis provided to customers in a tailored manner, act on this intelligence to manage customer journeys and capitalize on IoT. So in short, these challenges come down to implementing a modern billing system that facilitates the ease of data exchange aligned with holistic business requirements, where we have, for instance, customers' business structures that can match easily with billing data and which can be powered by bill presentment solutions. So bills need to be as clear as possible for customers, as Gabriel was also saying, and more so with IoT complexity. As we are loyal to customer experience, when customers investigate their bills, cost recognition should be immediate, intuitive, leaving no questions at all.
Well, just to add to that's very transparent when we are talking the business-to-business market segment. When we focus on business-to-consumer market segment, I think there's a piece here that will need also to be put in place, which is interoperability between devices in order to IoT, 5G, and then the billing process can flow smoothly. Gabor, coming back here to Vodafone use case, you recently deployed electronic bill presentment solution in your organization with a layer of analytics. I have here two fundamental questions to you. The first one is, can you name any major quick wins enable attach to this? And the other was, I have three, but I'm going to just jump to the two of it. What was in this global selection process that you made that it took a long time before you choose the solution provider that you had to prepare to offer to this type of solutions?
Well, it's been as you have mentioned, it's been a really complex process, not just internally, but externally also. The need being there, as we know, we deployed this solution only for B2B right now, but the need for it is expanding over B2B, over large enterprise. And we are also talking about now the smaller B2B companies as well. Right now we have the solution only in place for the large enterprises. But this is the most complex part of the business in regarding products, customer structures, and so on. So the whole selection and the whole need being emerged by the need of the customer itself. We started to analyze their needs. We made countless interviews with them. We started to analyze what is the common need. We started to get what part can be standardized and what part cannot be standardized, what are the unique needs, what we need to cut off from the scope, and so on and so on. So it's been a really long time until we faced and until we've been able to put down the generic need and what are the key requirements toward the solution which can be presented to the customers. Since it's a complex business and we are aiming to go forward into a situation where we would like to have a transparent billing to any of our customers. And to have transparent billing, we have to simplify our products, especially the core mobile line products. But this simplification already started, regardless of this bill presentment system selection. But since we know that the business is heading towards the simplification way through some recent activities also in the European Union, as they have started to roll out with the roaming regulation, just as an example, or if I can mention that most of the core products are heading towards the unlimited world, where we are basically aiming to put to every customer a simple and single service where we are applying flat pricing. So basically the customer is going to pay in the future, hopefully, only one monthly fee, and they are going to get unlimited content for most of their services on mobile side. Fixed is a different part. Right now we are only talking about mobile. But this helped us and to decide that we should go into a standardized way and we should put down a transparent and easy access solution towards our customers. So basically, the most critical part being these interviews to cut down and to analyze which part is the bare minimum for these customers and which are the products that are in the market that can provide this bare minimum and even a little bit more maybe. So basically, this whole selection been a long journey, but we are at the end of the journey, and right now, at least, not just we, but our customers also know what they want and what they expect. So Vodafone and the customers, and I think right now the market is also heading towards the way where we are talking about the really same thing.
Very well. I just would like to add another question to you that I believe that's a singularity on the project that you implemented. It's no secret that you are deploying the solution in Amazon Web Services as platform as a service. And to my knowledge, this is a pioneer deployment in the world. I don't remember to see another electronic bill presentment solution as platform as a service hosted in AWS, especially with a go live production use case. And we also have some AWS guys as attendees in this webinar. So if you have someone that is actually doing the same deploy AWS as platform as a services, if you have to give some advices, what are the main challenge that you faces by choosing this kind of type of hosting?
Let me talk a bit about the journey which I have experienced during this. When I got the green light from my superiors to go with the cloud strategy, it encouraged me and most of the people in our project organization. We knew that we are going to build a precedent, and this is a true challenge, which is a really great thing. And we started with great pressure and with great strength and everything. And then the deeper we gone into this area, the more questions arise. So basically, there have been a pretty good example for that, and I would suggest to everyone to avoid it. We basically undercounting the. Basically, we started from zero. We started to introduce something into the cloud for first, and we had no cloud experience at all. But not just the project while, but by IT department while. And we started to speed up and try to adopt to the situation where we have to learn something which is really new to us. It's the cloud hosting. It's a really complex area when you are just starting to dig into it. When you know it, it is really much smooth and agile and the most sustainable solution from our perspective. I'm really happy that we gone through this journey, but the learning part is what everyone should do in time, and most likely and the best way is to do it priorly, because basically we face the situation. It's been like not just learning how to ride a bicycle, but it's been like something that, but we are also building that bicycle that we are going to ride after it.
Yeah.
It's been good.
That's the challenge of being a champion, being the first ones in the world to do that. There's no one to let you know the way to go. Now you have the trade-off. You are able to say to people, well, I have done it. This is the way to go. So thank you for sharing with us that. Amilcar, coming back to CWC, you have a totally different reality, very complex, with a huge expansion roadmap, different countries, different billing systems, different CRM. Well, everything is different, but in the end, decisions are taken centrally in, let's call it competence centers. And that raises something that is very important, is to have a middleware solution that can simultaneously respond to all markets and specific needs of each country. When you have to look to an electronic bill presentment or a telecom expense management solution with different reality, and you have to please everyone, and you cannot please everyone, what's your answer?
Well, you're right. You'll never please everybody. And we tend to use the 80-20 rule. We try to get 80% right most of the time. And to be fair, we get more than 80% right most of the time. In the case of the bill presentment solution that we've worked with Safety, you know, having a solution like Safety with a middleware that sort of abstracts all the complexity underneath is fantastic, because the end user, our enterprise customers, do not have to worry about all the complexity that we have behind the scenes. What CRM system, how many billing systems do we have? Is it one billing system? Is it multiple billing system? If they are a multinational, they can see the same thing. If they are a customer for that same market, it's absolutely the same thing. And being able to make those strategic calls from a central perspective, it's tremendously advantageous. And we couldn't do it on a market by market basis. It would have been a nightmare, for lack of a better word, because everybody would like it to be different. Everybody would like it to be in accordance to how they see things. Whereas we were able to put a standard structure across the board, which pleased the vast majority, and it pleased the most important constituent, which is our customers. And our customers are happy with what we're putting out there.
Fantastic. And one of the things that I like to believe is that when business-to-business customers are negotiating with you guys, they always have two variables, price and equipment, and try to stick to these two. And on the other side, you guys want to present them a set of value-added services that can distract these guys from price and equipment. Do you believe that by presenting this type of value-added service to them can help on things like customer retention, loyalty, especially when negotiating contracts?
Absolutely. I think price is important, and what you call the equipment or the services are very important. The products are very important, but the wrapper around it is the service, is the quality of the service. And the service is not just the people behind it. It's not just the SLA that we put behind it for a managed service, but it is also the tools and facilities that we're making available to our customers to self-serve and empower them and enable them to do things by themselves without having to call somebody or to rely on a human being behind the scenes. Yes, if they want to talk to somebody and get help from somebody, that person will be there, and that's one of the tremendous value adds that we bring. But we're also bringing state-of-the-art solution like the bill presentment solution that enables them to slice, dice, and manage their data in a way that is super efficient for them and independent from any of the accounts. So it's tremendously valuable in the self-serve element of the value propositions that we bring to market.
Fantastic. Well, we are now getting to the end of the webinar. I will just pass to the last topic that we have in here before we go for a short question and answer session. Here we're going to focus on electronic bill presentment on Telco's future digital transformation strategy. Gabor, before you leave, because I know that you have another commitment at 5 o'clock, but before you leave, tell me, in terms of your company digital transformation strategy, and I know that you have a direct contribution to that, what other major initiatives you would like to care to mention besides electronic bill presentment? You can mention two, of course, but what other things you think that are going to be important for you?
Yes, most likely since out of my role, I'm mostly affected under the bill presentment matter of questions. But I think the bill presentment, as I have mentioned earlier, if I put it on a journey view, we have the web store, we have web sales, we have the digital capability for that. Not in every segment, but for the majority of our segment and for the majority of our sales. And the end of this digital transformation is, from my perspective, is the bill itself. That is the final document which the customer gets after the services which they are buying. But after all, in between and during the life cycle of the customer, to achieve a concrete and a full digital transformation, uh, what is the most important after all of this is the self-service portal. So basically a portal where the customer can manage their services, the customer can manage their information, and where the customer can manage any other thing that is related to not just the mobile, but for any kind of contract which he has with Vodafone or any other operator. So I think that is the second most important pillar of a digital transformation. And maybe lastly, but not leastly, is the mobile application. I think it's crucial for every mobile operator and for every telco industry present that since we are selling mobiles, we are selling the key communication device to the customer, which they are connected to the world, is that to have in hand some application where they can do the same what they can do in a other computer or anywhere else. But the mobile app need to be more seamless. The mobile app need to be more handy. So basically, a lot of functionality need to be put into a small application which can be transparently show the information to the customer. I think this is the true challenge to build the correct mobile application for the customers. But for me, this is the four main pillars to achieve the end-to-end digital transformation for a telco industry.
Very well, very well. I would like to also to drop another buzzword that we haven't talked to you, Amilcar, and you have so much thing going on. I don't know if you still have time to look to blockchain and things like smart contracts and the impact it's gonna have in accuracy, transparency on the invoice. Even the invoice might not exist in some years from now on. You have smart contracts, you have blockchain that gives all the trust that needs for a guy to pay something that he believes that is 100% correct. Regarding to this, how close do you think we are from this reality?
I would love to think that we're close, but I don't think we're that close, because for it to be widely accepted, you need to have industry-wide adoption. And until you have a significant critical mass of adoption and a coherent way of creating, sharing, and accepting those smart contracts on a common blockchain, we won't see the true benefits of it. Is there potential? Absolutely. Is it the right way and the way of the future? 100%. But we're still not there, and we're still trying to figure out the traditional ways of doing things. And let's be candid, the telco industry has been a bit slow in adapting this new technology and understanding its benefits. So I think we're not there yet. I think it will take quite a bit of time for us to adopt blockchain and smart contracts and the benefits that this brings with it.
Very well, very well, very well. I think I fully agree with you. Although I'm a huge enthusiast about blockchain and the role that it can have in the invoice billing process, so I'm also keen to see. I saw some very useful use cases in other areas where safety is also a player, but here I think we are still in a very, I will not say early stage, but as you say, market adoption to make it, creating the right synergies to make it scalable to all of us. Nuno, coming back to you, and perhaps this will be the last question that I'm gonna jump to you before the question and answers. In which way do you believe IoT complexity will disrupt the current billing process? The challenge and opportunity that you foresee coming through?
Well, I believe that we can all agree that disruption on billing processes is inevitable. So there are several aspects we need to consider, being one of them monetization, which I already mentioned before, as providers need to work towards integrating different fees under a single plan, fluid enough to adapt to new settings and new services. Another important aspect is the usage-based billing. since IoT-based services are only now beginning to adapt to the usage-based billing method. Of course, this is helped largely by IoT's devices' natural ability to take data on such things as minutes, bandwidth, and other metrics that clearly establish how much a device or service is being used, therefore giving consumers the feel that they're only being charged for what they use. A very easy example of this can be if you imagine you have a specific tire, a specific type of brakes with sensors, which with usage-based billing, you could charge for every time drivers use their brakes. Of course, I don't think anyone would be saving on this use. Another key challenge is convergent presentment. Operators have always faced and will continue to be facing the need to produce a convergent presentment for all the invoices related to the services subscribed by each customer. It already is extremely difficult to keep track of multiple invoices based on multiple bill cycles for multiple products subscribed from the same provider or different providers, partners. And now we are adding even more complexity with the increase of IoT services. So a major challenge for operators is certainly being able to produce a convergent bill or, at the same time, a convergent presentment, which we, of course, defend, which from the customer's perspective allows consolidated charges in a single view, as well as services and payments based on the complete outstanding.
Well, that brings me a good theme that we could also approach in another webinar. But Amilcar just spoke about slice and dice, but we also have the need of convergent presentment. So we have the two areas where a customer might need to slice and dice. But if I have a multi-operation country with several contracts within a telco umbrella, but I want to have a single view, have a holistic view about all of this in one just document, the convergent presentment here has also a role to play. Before we enter to the final topic question and answers, Amilcar, just to finalize here, before I just look to what the questions that were raised to safety, what are the main challenges that CSP will have to face in order to respond accordingly to the market? What do you think that will be your last vision for what's coming in?
Our biggest challenge is to be able to respond quickly to customer needs. And by this, I mean customers are getting more and more accustomed to self-served and instant gratification. If you take the example of Teams or Zoom, you can subscribe to Teams and Zoom today online and start using and benefiting from it right away. I think that's a trend that's going to continue, and it's going to expand to additional services that we as a telco provide. So we need to move into zero-touch deployment type of solution. And we need to figure out how we OTT a lot of our services that tend to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? More custom made for our customers, and allow our customers to be able to pick and choose and basically get the solutions in a very short amount of time. And that will be enabled through self-service, through a digital enablement solution that we as telcos will have to make available to our customers.
Exactly. I was just having a conversation with a customer of safety, which is Oi, which is one of the biggest Latin American mobile operators, and is a public announcement that they have done that they are selling part of Oi, mobile to one part, fixed landline for, and they want to focus on fiber connectivity, being the biggest fiber infrastructure provider in Brazil. And I was telling them, well, but what are you going to do if you have guys knocking at your door that you want to have mobile services? It doesn't matter. We're going to do like a BPO of someone that is providing that. On top of it, we're going to focus on that, but we're going to be able to reply to all the ecosystem that exists around us by not investing us, but by doing that as an outsourcing with someone that does that much better than we do. I will just jump to some question and answers that are being raised here. I'll choose two. I've been selecting some. So, Nuno, I'll just pick one that I believe it's more suitable for you. What do you think of the smart invoice or interactive invoice concepts and the role that they play in the billing presentment? This is quite interesting because we haven't touched this part of interactive and smart invoice that I believe it's not applicable to all markets, but in some markets, this is something very useful to be as a touch point of communicating under the customer experience journey, using the invoice as a marketing or a communication channel. Nuno, can you give me a hand on this?
Yes, of course. Smart invoice or interactive documents, of course, concepts that we are very much concerned as we believe are very important tools that CSPs can implement. And going back to the impact of COVID-19, that has clearly transformed consumer behavior, with many people self-isolating at home, creating a greater desire for high-speed connectivity and in-home entertainment, of course, work requirements also. So I believe that billing needs to position itself at the same level as other digital experiences. So more so when billing is for many customers the only interaction they have with an operator during the contract lifetime. If you think of the B2C segment, I believe that customers should expect to interact with their bills as they already experience on other aspects of the relationship with CSPs. And at a time when all interactions have radically become even more digital, there's no turning around. Therefore, boring PDFs with obsolete layouts can no longer be the answer. Customers are expecting an invoice that they understand, that is at the same time at the same level as any other interaction, and something they can navigate on. When you call it interactive document, we mean that the customer will be looking into interactive dashboards with details that can show data according to his demand and criteria used along the navigation. So I believe it's really important in all this matter of billing presentment.
Yeah, that's an opportunity to piggyback, because if there is something that we know, the only time that we are 100% sure that the customer is looking at us is when he receives the bill from us. So we should use that opportunity to do something else. And then another question that's here is, I think it's a kind of related, or I will put it kind of related, and that will be the last one for you, Amilcar, is, do you believe that we can use this type of services to selling other offers or do some kind of cross-selling, upselling strategies? So you are on our customer side, you have the vision of the market. I think that I will point out this one for you.
So I think we can, it's just that it's a different business model. So I do think that we can leverage our billing capabilities and our expense management capabilities to introduce new services that complement the telco services, and having us as the billing and collection agent of those businesses. It is very viable. It is, but it is something that I haven't seen telcos get into. Now, it's something that we should probably start looking into as, you know, our revenues start to flatten out or the growth is slowing down, expanding into new areas of business, leveraging some of the pillars that we provide to third-party businesses is an interesting thought.
And probably the maturity of the market will contribute to that. If you have markets that are in an early stage with less offer on this side or more, so this will also adapt to the strategy. Well, with this last question and answer from Milcar, we finish this webinar. Let me thank you all, especially in this case, first starting for the attendees, but also a big applause on my side to Amilcar and Gabor to share with us their vision and their experience about electronic bill presentment and the strategy for the telco industry. Nuno, also thank you for us to share your assessment of the market and the research that we have been doing this, and all to the safety team. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to people that are in another time zone already. Thank you very much for your time. I hope this was useful for all of you as was useful for me. And thank you all on behalf of safety team. Thank you.
Thank you, Nuno. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.